Hey everyone, so today I'm excited to share with you how you can take $10 every single day and turn it into over $1 million. Now, of course, the process isn't super simple and it will take a little bit of time, but we're gonna go into some detail on how this is even possible. But first and foremost, if you are somebody who maybe is thinking to wanna maybe put their money into a savings account to be able to have for retirement or even for the future, that's longer than a couple of years, like 2 to 3 years, you're actually going to be losing money by having that in your bank account. Because if you're putting your money into a savings account, you're actually going to lose money. And the reason for that is because for most savings accounts, the interest rate is so low that your actual money is going to deteriorate in value because of inflation. So maybe if you have an online savings account that has a couple higher percentages, like 2.5%, you might be decent on having your money kind of just stay at the value that it's worth over time, but it's really not going to build wealth for you like you really want to, especially if it's for something down the road, like having a lot of money, maybe for retirement or for other big financial goals. So as I mentioned, if you are trying to save up for a financial goal that's 1 to 3 years, having your money in a savings account is fine. Ideally, if you want to put it into a high yield savings, so you at least earn some money on your money. But overall, this kind of goal that we're going to be talking about is, of course, like I mentioned, a longer term goal. But this is going to help you get to a position where you're going to have money in your accounts so that way you can do more of the things you want to do. So what we're going to do is show you the impact of compound interest. Now, for most people, compound interest actually works against them. This is usually for people who have credit card debt or any other types of loans out there that they have to pay for a long time. Interest is going to really hurt you in the long run for those things. But when it comes to compound interest, when it comes in the form of like a stock market, this can actually really benefit you and build you some really great wealth. So I'm going to show you guys how this works out. If you're not big into investing, don't worry. You don't need to know everything when it comes to investing. You just want to start learning over time all the little different things that come with it. Because for most people, when we first got into a vehicle for the first time, it's very scary, right? Like you were really probably scared to drive a vehicle, especially on the freeways. You didn't know how everything worked, but now you're kind of like a pro at it. It's very simple and very easy. You can get in a car, no problem. So the same thing happens with investing. For the most part, most people are really scared to get started, but as you start learning, as you start kind of getting a good understanding of how investing actually works, it is a very powerful tool. It is going to get you from point A to B similar to a car, but with your financial goals. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and I hope you stick around because this stuff can be really impactful for your financial future. Now, if you have any questions as we go along this, leave a comment down below. I will, of course, do my best to help answer those for you. I am not a CPA, so always make sure you get some additional financial advice, but I will help you as best as I can and what I would do in your situation. All right, so here we are on the computer, and we are at calculator.net. So this is what we're going to use for our interest calculator. Now, of course, like I mentioned, if we just save the $10 every single day into a savings account, it's not going to go far. Putting it in investments is going to go way further, and you're going to be surprised on how much you're going to put in and how much you're going to get back over time. It's actually really, really shocking, and I hope this really helps you guys out as well. So we're going to start off with a zero balance. So if you are somebody who has no balance in an investing account, maybe nothing for retirement, hopefully this really helps you guys out. And if, of course, you have a small balance, you can always go onto this calculator and plug that in and kind of see the adjustments that it gives you. So since we start off with a zero balance, we are going to be going at an interest rate of about 8%. Now, 8% is kind of somewhat of an average. If you go onto nerdwallet.com, they actually say that the average stock market return is 10%. Now, for a lot of people, that might seem kind of like right over their heads. Well, how do I get 10%? How do I know what companies to invest in? And for those people, I usually recommend starting off with what they call ETFs. ETFs are pretty much just a collection of different companies put together into a fund, so you don't have to do a lot of the extra work. So you can get started with having one fund that is very diversified in your portfolio. Now, for me, I like to invest in a couple of different Vanguard funds, but here are some of the ones that I would potentially recommend to myself if I were to get started over again. And those are going to be VTSAX, which is what they call the ticker number. And then there's also Vanguard VOO, as well as Vanguard VOOG. Now, the reason I personally like these ones is because they kind of follow the stock market in general. So they have a lot that follows along directly with the S&P 500, which is kind of like the benchmark of the stock market. Now, the rates of return have been really great over the last 10 years, as you can see here on the screen. And they do compare very well to the overall market, which means that if we go with 8%, it's almost a little bit more conservative than if we went with that full 10%. So we're going to stick with the 8%. 8% just so we can do the math here, and we can even switch out the numbers later down the road. And then what we're going to do is we are going to contribute, like I said, $10 a day. If we break it down on average to $300 every single month, then that's going to help us out in this calculation because we can only do once a year or once a month. Now, knowing that what I know, this is going to take about 41 years. And we're going to hit calculate here. Now, I know to some people, 41 years might seem like a very long time. And of course it is. Like 41 years is a ton of time. But would you rather not have $1 million in 41 years? Or would you pretty much want to be where you don't have any big financial goals that you've achieved in that 41 years? Now, when we talk about $300, to some people that might be a lot. And to others, that might be very reasonable amount of money that you can invest in. Now, you can also do other types of investments during this time, or you can invest more than the $10 a day or more than the $300 every single month if you have achieved other financial goals. So if you paid off all your debts, now you have more cash flow, maybe you got pay raises, maybe you came into more money, whatever the case may be, you can actually increase this amount and of course decrease the amount of years it takes to actually get to that $1 million. Now, the $1 million is just, a benchmark for a lot of people, but you're going to see the impact that your money has on itself when you kind of keep it there in the market. So when we look, if you do for 41 years, have an interest rate of 8% with no money getting started, and you invest $300 every month, that averages out to about $10 a day, you're going to have $1,047,359.87, of course, give or take. Now, these are, of course, just estimates, and your actual results may vary, but that is a good estimate of, all the numbers plugged in and what you can potentially get. Now, here's the really cool part. I mentioned earlier that if you, let's say, put all this money away into an actual bank account and, put it into Wells Fargo and it was earning nothing on your savings, but you save that $10 every single day or the $300 every month, you would only have about $147,600 in the account, and most likely less valuable because of the fact, again, that inflation will take place over that 41 years. So if you think about the fact that you put in $147,600 and then you actually end up with over $1 million, that means the amount of interest that you have earned is almost $900,000. So think about that. Think about how much interest you're actually earning on the amount of money that you've put into it. Can you imagine how impactful that can be over the course of time, even further past, if you kept investing more, or if you started investing even more than the $10 every single day? But like I mentioned, totally understand that not everybody can invest that much every single time. So you can start off with a lot less. You can do $2 a day. You can do $5 a day. You can do something to at least get the ball rolling. A lot of people have heard of the debt snowball. You can think of this as like the investing snowball, getting started a little bit at a time to really build that momentum. Because as you start putting small amounts in, you start feeling really good. You see how the market's doing. You see your returns. You see how the money is going up. And it might encourage you to continue to do that more and more. And as you obviously start putting more money in, you also start learning about how the market works even more. And as we mentioned earlier with that car analogy, once you got started with driving, of course it was really difficult at first. But now sometimes people drive around from their work to their house and don't even remember how they got there because it's so fluid and so easy for them to go through the process and the motions of driving a car. And same thing will happen over time. So can you imagine investing $10 every single day for 40 years, how much more experience you're going to have with investing, that it's not going to seem like a very daunting task? I promise you, you'll be surprised on how much easier it gets, even in the first couple of months of getting started with investing, if you're not already somebody who's in the market. So you can see this little chart that they have here at the bottom that shows the amount of the principal that you put in and then the actual amount that the balance is at. And you can see that curve just building up faster and faster. So again, imagine if you started investing more every single month than even the $10 a day that we talked about here. That just means your money is going to grow that much faster and that much shorter of a time. So as I mentioned, if you get started with that $10 a day, of course, that's going to go a very long way. If you can't do $10 a day, look at the ways that you can actually start, maybe even with $1, $2, $3 every single day. There are so many ways that you can save money by cutting costs in other areas. There's ways that you can maybe start a side hustle or do something extra on the side to bring in just a little bit of money every day to help you put more towards your actual investments. So that way you can have a future where your financial goals are set, and that way you can do the things you want to do without the worry of money. Now, if you are someone who wants to really start getting more into investing in the market, check out my videos right over here to really help you get started in the process of learning more in the stock market. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.